Financial Update, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll be relatively brief. This afternoon, I've got just a couple of, no slides, just a little conversation on some budget matters, and then I've got a lengthy list of consent highlights that we'll run through while I'm up here. But I think as Mr. Durkin and myself told y'all throughout the season, it was going to be a busy, full finance calendar all the way up through 6:30. And certainly shaping up to be that way. We did get some good news. Reiterate Ms. Spillman's comments a few minutes ago. It looks like the governor's budget will come together in a way that we had originally envisioned, and so shouldn't be a whole lot of modifications if that holds to what the school board sent over and you ultimately approve. So we would be able to do that cleanup work in May. But it doesn't look like we'll need any wholesale changes from that process. Tonight begins really sort of a 2-month process for you all to take the next steps with some of the year-end surplus dollars that you set aside back in December. So as we normal course of business, we close out the books in October. We usually have a work session in November. We come back in December, and you will make assignments or appropriations depending on the circumstances with those surplus monies. We had about $30 million. You cut that in half for two purposes, one of which was a 5% one-time credit on the June 5th real property bill, and then $15 million was set aside for capital needs, basically funding gaps in existing capital projects. So nothing new, but just sort of, the contract environment continues to be a challenging one, and so we, even before we kind of got into the tariff talk, we knew that there were going to be some needs there. Tonight, you have on your consent agenda, you have the appropriation of that $15 million. So we wanted to wait until the budget was in place and do it in that sequence. So we will bring that back to you tonight. No public hearing. It's a consent item, straight appropriation of $15 million. That's what goes against the June 5 bill. It gives you that, on average, that 1.3, 1.4% year-over-year increase in that real tax bill. So that's the first half. We deal with that tonight. Then we'll come back in May. Well, let me back up just a second. Also on your consent agenda is to set a public hearing for May, where we will ask you to do some amendments to your current year capital plan. And that is based, first and foremost, around the other half of that surplus back from December. So we set that aside for school capital projects. We've been talking in this room and in audit finance for months, if not bordering on years, that we knew going into the referendum, we needed as much funding as we could. A school like Midlothian Middle School was half in the referendum, and certainly the prices have not broken in our favor generally. So trying to set funds aside for those purposes, and also we have a number of, again, active projects, not part of the budget that you just adopted, but just previously approved projects that need some funding. The headlining one there is the HVAC replacement at the jail across the street. So that project's been awarded and just needs some of that appropriation from December. So that's what you will set that public hearing tonight, come back in May, and you will address whatever that list is. We have briefings set up with each of you to go through those candidate projects. That culminates on May 14th. We have an audit and finance committee meeting where we'll be able to have some public discussion, and then that leads us into the public hearing in May to deal with those items. In June, we'll come back, your traditional first year in, where we deal with some actions to close out the fiscal year. You will make some assignments with some of those funds. At that point, a good example would be Mr. Holland, the unassigned fund balance policy. That's when we make those additions to that, trying to get us to that 10% mark. It'll put us at sort of top of class. So we'll deal with that as your normal year end. You'll also have a paper from schools. We're working with them on that. And in June, we will also begin to do the bond resolutions. we're taking the 1 year pause on the county side, as we talked about throughout the budget process. But schools does have a very active capital campaign underway, so we are still in the market to sell some school bonds. So you will have some approvals associated with that in June. We'll be talking to the rating agencies between now and then we will actually sell those bonds. Market conditions if hold up in July. And we're in right now, not part of your agenda per se, but we are doing a surveillance audit from some of the agencies just related to some of this federal stuff. So that's a typical process. So we'll have probably as early as Friday, perhaps we'll have, sort of a review from them. We've sent them a lot of information, but they do that. Anytime there's a disruption in the market, they want to see how is it affecting you, how are you planning, how did you budget for this for the upcoming year. So we are doing that work now, but all early signs are very positive. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, kind of setting the stage from May to the end of the fiscal year.
Board members, any questions? Thank you.